Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. If you enjoy the content you are going to see in this video, please subscribe and leave a comment below. So, as we all saw on the previous video, I'm covering the Grand Prix, the Grand Swiss, in Samarkand, Uzbekistan. Both tournaments, both open and women's, give 2 spots to the next candidates. So it's a very strong tournament with the 100 best players in the world in each of the 2 events. Today's game is from the second round. It's a very nice miniature game featuring Roebers with the white pieces and Vaishali Ramesh Babu with the black pieces. Of course, Vaishali, as you all know, is the older sister of elite grandmaster Praggnanandhaa, who's number 3 or number 4 in the world currently. But she's a very strong player in her own right. I know her personally. I've interviewed her several times. Very nice person, very happy, very enjoyable, and a very, very strong player. But Roebers, who's playing with the white pieces, is also a very strong international master, very young, very aggressive, a big risk taker. So let's get into the game. Now what we're going to see in this game is Ruy Lopez, secondary line of the Ruy Lopez, which her brother's played before and she's picked up on it. And we're going to see white breaking some of the more important opening rules and getting duly punished because of that. So I think this is an instructive game, and when we get to these rule breaking moments, I'm going to give you my opinion. Because of course, Roebers is an international master. She's one of the best players in the world, so she obviously knows all the opening rules, and it could be interesting to try and understand why is she breaking these rules. Let's go with the game. So Eline opens with e4, and as I said before, the game is a Ruy Lopez with bishop to e5. And here, of course, knight f6 is the main move. And then there are, of course, other moves such as d6 with the Steinitz variation. b5 is playable as well. Bishop c5 is the choice of Vaishali, not considered to be the best move according to theory, but then again, not a bad move either. Just developing the bishop. It's the so-called classical variation. c3 is very principal, going for the center with d4. And knight g to e7. The idea between knight to g to e7 is at some point against d4, swap off the pawns and hit back with d5. That's one of the ideas, sometimes including b5 in the mix. That's why in this line we play first a6 and only then bishop c5. Also with the knight on e7, we step aside any annoying pins on g5. So this is an interesting line to have in your repertoire. Not the best, but in no case the worst either. There are several moves here for white, but d4 is the main move. That's the move that Eline goes for. Now, with this new layout, which I'm using now, we do see the eval bar already offering a very small advantage for white. But more importantly, in this new layout from chess.com, we get to see the times in real moments, so we know exactly how much time is spent on each move. As you see, they started with 1 hour and a half, and while Vaishali has already used up very little of her time, she's basically playing on the increment, Eline has already used up nearly 15 minutes of time, which means she was definitely surprised. And of course, c3 and d4 are very easy moves to make. The fact that she didn't move them quickly does mean she's been surprised by the opening, and this could be dangerous. So pawn takes pawn, and here I would say comes the first inaccuracy of Eline. Instead of capturing with the pawn, which is the normal move, after which this is a popular line, and here both castle, e takes d5 and e5, all 3 moves are possible. This would be the mainline theory. Instead of this, Eline decides to go for knight takes d4, which loses a bit of grip on the position. She did play this fast, so she probably had decided it in her previous move. Now, I don't like this move because, of course, if black were to capture, it would be fine, but black doesn't capture and white has lost the center. More importantly, Eline will not be able to develop her knight on c3 anymore. So she falls into a slightly more passive opening line. Of course, perfectly fine for equality, but not for more. So castle. And now castle would be the normal move. Castle, and it's a game. White will play bishop to e3, maybe knight to d2, knight to f3. The bishop will probably drop back to c2 or b3. Black can go for the d5 break, should be close to equal. Instead, Eline goes for bishop to d5. Is she breaking an opening rule? Not yet. She is developing a piece. She is pinning. But it would have made more sense to play castle. So she hasn't actually broken an opening rule yet. But bishop to d5 is slightly worse than castling. Of course, h6 hitting the bishop. We don't want to give up the bishop pair, so she goes back. But now she's had to choose between two different diagonals. h6 is useful for black, stopping any back rank mates in the future. Doesn't seem to be a weakness. And now the bishop on h4 cannot control the squares d2, e3 and f4. So white has had to make a choice. And now she plays a very good move, Vaishali. She spends 6 or 7 minutes and goes knight to e5. Excellent choice, a very good choice, because she wants to play knight to g6 and break this pin, and then a strike with one of the center pawns. Very well played. Basically taking advantage of the non-developed queen side. f4. Now this is a mistake. As you can see, the eval bar drops very slightly to 0.76 for black, which means that already f4 is bad. Why is it bad? Because now this would be a pin if white castles at any point. She's weakening her position. These pieces on the fourth rank are slightly uncoordinated. Queen side is underdeveloped. And of course here, white should have gone for castling. Knight to g6, bishop to g3, d5, pawn takes, maybe knight takes, something along these lines. And this, I don't really see black emerging from this position with a big advantage. I can see black has a comfortable game, but nothing else. It should be equal. There's a symmetrical pawn structure. Black is fine. The bishop comes out easily. We can even give up the bishop pair and leave white with an isolated pawn, but it should be okay. Why didn't Eline do this? Is Eline a beginner? Of course not. She's an international master. She's a very strong player. Now, generally, when stronger players breach the opening rules, it's because although they know they're taking a risk, they understand what's behind the basic rules and think that it's a moment where they can, let's say, do the exception to the rule. That's basically what's Eline thinking. Eline's thinking, okay, I know I should castle. I know f4 is risky, but I can't see a way where black can take advantage of it. And if it works out well for me, I'm going to get a good attacking position. That's her train of thought. But it's very dangerous, of course. And she knows she's taking the risk. That goes with the personality of the player. I've seen Eline playing many times. She's played next to me in 1 or 2 tournaments, and I've interviewed her as well. And this risk approach has given her a lot of victories. I think we've even discussed, at least in my Spanish channel, I've definitely considered 2 or 3 of her games, and maybe even this channel as well. So she's a very aggressive player, and with aggression and risks comes certain volatility in your game. You can have a lot more ups and downs and maybe less draws. Okay, so knight to g6. We have to drop back to g3. And of course, give her one move to castle. Get the king out of the way. I know these pawns are already rolling, so this wouldn't be bad for white. But of course, Vaishali understands this and knocks the board with f5, and after knight takes f5, a mistake, but already it's not an easy position to play. Computer suggests knight to d2, which would be slightly better. Knight takes pawn. Eline probably was expecting knight takes knight, and here she can get in queen to d5, knock off the bishop, and then castle, and this would be okay. This was probably one of the lines she calculated when going f4. But fantastic Vaishali, she plays d5, the best computer move on the board, and now she's really going for aggression. She attacks the pawn, she attacks the knight with the bishop as well, and if black exchanges knight on e7, we just capture protecting the bishop, and when white comes in with the queen, we just move away. And now we're threatening the pawn on f4, we're threatening bishop to e6, we're threatening all sorts of dangerous moves like rook to d8 or rook a to d8. The king is in the center, it can't castle, and it's very troublesome. And if knight to d2, the computer actually suggests bishop to g4, fantastic move, and now the king can't castle on any of the two sides of the board. Rook to d8 is coming along, and white is totally busted here. Although it doesn't look like it, there's going to be no way to get around here. For example, let's say b4 hitting the bishop, we play bishop to e3, hitting the knight, and we follow up with rook a to d8, and this is a very, very ugly position to face. That's what happens when you get your king caught in the center. So after d5, Eline tried to regroup with bishop to b3. A sensible move, pinning the pawn to the rook, the king, but not good enough. Knight takes knight. Pawn takes. If queen takes d5 check intermediate, we exchange queens. We go to the corner, and this is a position I analyzed a bit with the computer. Rook a to d8 is coming, rook f to e8, and black will be caught in the crossfires of the rooks and the bishops. As you can see, the computer completely acknowledges that white is completely lost here. So instead, Eline played e takes e5, and now bishop takes d5, king moves aside, bishop f2, trying to castle and trying to sidestep rook to e8, but check, capture, and now all the pieces are coming in. The pawn is recovered, the queen is coming in here, the rook is coming in here, the king is in the middle. This is completely lost, and if that wasn't enough, Eline only has 15 minutes on her clock against nearly 40 minutes for Vaishali. Vaishali is crushing her opponent here after we've seen how she broke some serious opening rules. Bishop f3, rook d8, knight d2, queen c5, king g3. King f1 would be the best move if it wasn't because of bishop d3, and it's basically game over here. And there are several ways to deliver mate. This is just one of the different ways to go. So king to g3, and here we're going in for a check on the f2 square or on the e5 square, and the king is being mated. King to f1, queen d6, and it's game over. King to g5, king to h4, g5 check, and there would be mate with knight to f4 at the end, which obviously Roebers did not want to see on the board. This was a crushing game by Vaishali, who is currently in the lead in the Grand Swiss going into the rest day. She's playing extremely well, and she's up there at the top. Vaishali is a very strong player, and when she's in form, she can definitely perform at a 2500 level, although her rating now is 2452. I think you'll all agree that breaking the opening rules, not castling, is very risky, and you can every now and then get crushed by this type of attacking play. But we have to recognize these are elite players. They know when to sidestep the rules. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I hope you enjoyed the game and you enjoyed seeing this variation and the combination of play by two players. If that's like as I think, please subscribe to the channel and you'll get more games in the future. I'm trying to publish now every 2 to 3 days and keep the content flowing. And as always, have fun, enjoy the process, enjoy the game, and see you at the boards.